Hello and welcome to this webinar on LAP2, in which I'll be describing some of the exciting ways we can apply lectical assessments to recruitment. My name's Aidan Thornton and I'm pleased to be your facilitator throughout this webinar. Just to provide a little bit of background context about me and the experience that I bring to this program, I have over 20 years of international experience across Australia, Asia and Europe in senior human resources and organizational development roles. And in those roles, I have worked with various recruitment processes in a variety of different contexts, including building entire recruitment functions, optimizing recruitment processes, and also advising on mostly senior executive roles. So for today's webinar, there are a number of goals that we're striving to achieve. First, I'll begin with some background context about lectical assessments and describe why Lectica is focused on recruitment at this point in time. I'll then provide you with Lectica's vision for the future of recruitment and how those processes can be optimized. We'll explore the learning outcomes for the LAP2 program. I'll describe the content and the structure of the program, share a little detail about the underpinning learning approach, and then finally describe two main ways that you can engage with the LAP2 program via either an accreditation or a non-accreditation pathway. So let's begin with some background. So Dr. Theo Dawson and her colleagues have been building and conducting research with developmental assessments ever since 1996. But it was actually in the year 2002 that lectical assessments were first born. And at that time, there were three lectical assessments that were available. The LDMA, which focuses on leadership decision-making, the LLRA, which focuses on reasoning about leadership, and finally the LRJA, which focuses on reflective judgment and critical thinking. But it was actually in 2004 that lectical assessments first began to be applied to a wide variety of contexts involving learning and development, which include, but certainly are not limited to, training, coaching, and ongoing research about learning and development. Finally, lectical assessments have been applied to recruitment ever since 2006 to a wide variety of different organizations. And we're very proud to say that the very first organization that we worked with to support their recruitment processes are still working with us to this very day. So why is Lectica focused on recruitment? Well, first and foremost, Lectica is dedicated to helping employees develop in the most optimal way. We know that people develop most optimally when the challenges they're provided with in their role are in the Goldilocks zone. From a learning perspective, people learn best when the challenges they face are neither too complex nor too easy, but pitched just right. So one of the ways that we can help people operate in the Goldilocks zone is by ensuring that there's a good fit between the requirements of the role and the incumbent's actual skills. Our tools help to increase higher success, increase employee happiness, and finally to improve productivity. So what is Lectica's vision for the most efficient and effective recruitment process? Well, first of all, as many of you who work in human resources and recruitment probably know, recruitment can be an incredibly costly endeavor, particularly at the more senior levels. So one of the outcomes that we want to achieve is an effective recruitment process at a reduced cost. Secondly, in many ways, recruitment is really an exercise in prediction. That is, we want to predict which candidate or which set of candidates are going to be most successful in the workplace, given what we know about the role, given what we know about the organization and its culture, and so on. Third, we want to increase productivity, and one of the ways of doing that is by helping employees to operate in the Goldilocks zone. That is, that there's a good fit between the complexity of the role and the complexity of incumbent skills. Fourth, we're keen to broaden out this conception of job fit. Again, many of you who work in recruitment and human resources might know that when we talk about job fit, often what we're talking about is the fit between the person and the job. But here we want to have a much broader conception to talk about the fit between the person and the role, but also the fit between the person and the team, and also the fit between the person and the general layers in the organizational hierarchy. And fifth and finally, we're keen to see recruitment being successfully integrated with the overarching employee development strategy, and even more broadly with the human capital value chain, which we'll get to in just a moment. So what are the learning outcomes for LAP2? Well, there are a number of them. In general, we want participants to be able to understand and explain the following 4 outcomes. First is to describe the way in which recruitment fits within the human capital value chain, and I'll be describing this value chain in some more detail quite shortly. Second, contemporary recruitment practices and processes. Third, the science and practice of applying assessments to recruitment. And fourth, to be able to work successfully with Lectica's 2 recruitment products, LecticaFirst and also the Leadsuite. The Leadsuite actually consists of 3 products: the capability assessment, the fitness assessment, and the compatibility assessment. I'll be getting to some more detail about LecticaFirst and the Leadsuite quite shortly, but maybe I'll just briefly mention that LecticaFirst is the recruitment product that's best suited for frontline through to middle management roles, whereas the Leadsuite is the recruitment product that's best suited to more senior management and executive roles. Okay, so what's the learning approach that underpins the entire LAP2 program? Well, many of you who have encountered Lectica's work have probably come across the virtuous cycle of learning, which is an iterative cycle that describes the way in which we learn throughout the whole human life cycle. And it consists of 4 main steps. Step 1 is identifying a learning goal. Step 2 is gathering key new information. Step 3 is applying that information. And step 4 is to engage in regular reflection. The important thing to know about the virtual cycle of learning is, although it's certainly a model that we encourage our participants to use with our clients, it's also a model that underpins the design of the LAP2 program itself. And we embody the virtual cycle of learning in a number of different ways: through pre-recorded lectures, through home play reflection questions and assignments, through interactive live sessions, and finally, through lots and lots of V-calling. Okay, so LAP2 is comprised of 8 modules in total. So let me spend a moment or two providing you with a brief overview of modules 1 through 4. In module 1, we'll provide some more detail on the rationale and introducing you to the context for applying lectical assessments to recruitment. And we'll also discuss recruitment in the broader context of the human capital value chain. In Module 2, we'll do a deep dive into contemporary recruitment practices and processes and the way in which some of those recruitment decisions get made at multiple different management layers, including frontline recruitment decisions, middle management recruitment decisions, and also executive recruitment decisions. In Module 3, we'll talk through the way in which assessments get applied to recruitment in contemporary practices. And we'll also introduce you to Lectica's 2 main recruitment tools, being LecticaFirst and the Leadsuite. In Module 4, we'll do a deep dive into LecticaFirst. And then in Module 5, you'll have an opportunity to prepare a sales pitch to a prospective client and give and receive critiques on your sales pitches with your fellow participants in order to refine and improve your messages moving forwards. In Module 6, we'll do a deep dive into the Leadsuite, which consists of the capability, the fitness, and the compatibility assessment. And then in Module 7, similarly to Module 5, you'll have an opportunity to prepare a sales pitch to a prospective client and then deliver it to your fellow participants and give and receive critiques. In Module 8, this will be a wrap-up session in which we'll complete any outstanding pitches and critiques, and we'll also ensure that any outstanding questions are addressed. So with that in mind, I'll go through each one of the modules in a little more detail and talk through the key learning outcomes. In Module 1, participants will be able to place recruitment processes in a historical context, which is quite important given the way in which recruitment processes and practices have evolved over the past decades. Be able to explain to clients the rationale for using Lectica's recruitment products. Describe the way in which recruitment fits into the human capital value chain. And you'll see over here on the right-hand side of this slide, this is a visual depiction of Lectica's version of the human capital value chain. It consists of a number of key processes, including workforce planning, organizational design, role fit, recruitment, onboarding, team effectiveness, performance management, learning and development, and succession planning. Now, for those of you who work in human resources, you will already know that there's typically a number of additional processes that are often included in any human capital value chain, such as remuneration and benefits, employee relations, industrial relations, culture change, and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, Lectica's version of the human capital value chain attempts to describe those aspects of the value chain that can be most benefited by lectical assessments. The final learning outcome for Module 1 is to explain to clients how the human capital value chain and Lectica's recruitment products relate to one another. Okay, so in Module 2, we'll do a deep dive into recruitment practices and processes so that by the end of this module, you'll be able to employ recruitment jargon, which can be very helpful if you're speaking with external recruitment firms or even recruiters inside organizations. We'll talk through the variety of different stakeholders that are likely to be involved in recruitment processes. And again, for those of you who work in recruitment or HR, you probably already know the variety of different perspectives that these stakeholders can bring to recruitment outcomes and some of the tensions that can often arise. Third is to describe and critique some of the most common types of assessment applied to recruitment. Fourth, to describe some of the most common practices used in contemporary recruitment processes. And finally, to describe and critically evaluate those recruitment processes. Okay, so in Module 3, we'll be doing a deep dive into assessment in the context of recruitment. By the end of this module, you'll be able to describe, provide examples of, and compare some of the most common forms of psychological assessment employed. Now, for those of you who are already working in recruitment or HR, you probably know there's such a wide variety of psychological assessments that get used, including IQ tests and 360-degree profiles, values questionnaires, behavioral event interviews, and so on and so forth. And so we'll have an opportunity to compare some of these different types of assessments. We'll explain the appropriate uses, including legal and practical uses, of different forms of psychological assessment. And thirdly, we'll have an opportunity to talk through some of the common statistics and properties of some of these psychological assessments. The terms reliability and validity often get used in this context. Sometimes this is an area that can easily get overlooked, but this is actually a critical consideration when choosing between different assessments that you can apply in the context of recruitment. Fourth is to explain some of the common errors made in assessment decisions and how assessment data can sometimes be interpreted. And finally, to describe the critical factors that are required for assessments to be applied successfully in recruitment. Okay, so in Module 4, we're going to do a deep dive into LecticaFirst. So let me provide you with a little more context around LecticaFirst. LecticaFirst is an annual subscription service that provides a product that is customizable, objective, and affordable. And again, I'm keen to emphasize that LecticaFirst is most suited for frontline through to middle-level management recruitment decisions. So what exactly does LecticaFirst measure? Well, what it measures is workplace reasoning. And the reason that we do that is because it is the best predictor of workplace performance. And bearing in mind what we said earlier, in many ways, recruitment is an exercise in prediction. By workplace reasoning, what we mean is the way in which candidates react to, the way they understand, and go about resolving real workplace issues. One of the great things about LecticaFirst is that it's so customizable, and that means it can be customized to fit a specific industry, a specific level of the role to be filled, and also the primary tasks and decisions that are required of that role. The final thing that I want to mention about LecticaFirst is that it's incredibly easy to use and the results are instantaneous. For those of you who are doing high volume recruitment, this can be an incredibly useful feature because as soon as candidates complete their assessments, the results are available immediately. Module 4 will be a deep dive into LecticaFirst. By the end of this module, participants will be able to explain the rationale behind LecticaFirst, including the general role complexity analysis. By a general role complexity analysis, we mean being able to have a look at the layers in an organizational hierarchy. This is one of the first steps that Lectica undertakes in providing the LecticaFirst product in terms of identifying what the layers are in the organizational hierarchy and also providing a range of skill levels that people will typically need to be able to perform at in each of those layers. Second, to describe the benefits of LecticaFirst. To illustrate how LecticaFirst can be integrated into existing recruitment processes, but also how LecticaFirst can be used to develop new recruitment processes, to show hiring managers how to administer and interpret the reports, And finally, how to leverage LecticaFirst to support employee development. Okay, so in Module 5, this is when we begin to practice our sales pitches of LecticaFirst, so that by the end of this module, you will have had an opportunity to prepare a sales pitch, and needless to say, being a sales pitch, you'll have an opportunity to include some of the benefits, the uses, the functionality, the cost, and so on. And also, you will give and receive constructive feedback to other participants in the program. So in Module 6, we'll do a deep dive into the Leadsuite. So let me provide you with a brief introduction to the Leadsuite just now. As I mentioned, the Leadsuite is the product that's most suited for senior management and executive roles. And in fact, it actually consists of 3 main products for executive recruitment. So the first product is a capability assessment. And the capability assessment does exactly what the title would suggest, that it assesses the capability of the leader in terms of the complexity level and also the quality of candidates' real-world decision-making skills. And needless to say, this will be a very important data point when making your recruitment decision. The second product in the Leadsuite is the fitness assessment. The fitness assessment is a little different to the capability assessment in that the fitness assessment allows you to compare the complexity of a candidate's skills. The fitness assessment is a little different to the capability assessment in as much as it allows you to directly compare the complexity of candidates' skills to the complexity demands of the role itself. And finally, the compatibility assessment, which allows you to compare the complexity of a candidate's skills to the complexity of the candidate's team members' skills. And that, so in terms of team members, we're including the person's potential supervisor, their peers, and subordinates. This will provide rich information in terms of how successfully this candidate's skills will fit in terms of the skills that their team members bring to the table. So in Module 6, we'll be doing a deep dive into the Leadsuite. So by the end of this module, participants will be able to explain the rationale behind the Leadsuite products, describe the products, their applications and benefits, illustrate how the Leadsuite can be integrated into existing executive recruitment processes, and also how the Leadsuite can be used to support executive development, and finally to debrief the product reports. So in Module 7, similarly to Module 5, by the end of this module, you will have had an opportunity to prepare and deliver an informative sales pitch to a prospective client on the capability, the fitness, and the compatibility assessments, and also to provide and receive constructive feedback from other course participants. In Module 8, we'll have an opportunity to complete our pitches and critiques, to respond to any outstanding questions, and finally to reflect on our learning journey so far and next steps. Okay, I want to briefly touch on the 2 main ways in which you can engage with the LAP2 program via either the accreditation pathway or the non-accreditation pathway. The accreditation pathway will require you to study all of the pre-recorded lectures, to complete all home play reflection questions and assignments to a minimum standard of 80%, to attend a minimum of 7 out of the 8 live sessions, and also accreditation will be reviewed every 4 years. And that's because there's sometimes updates to recruitment products and the way they're applied and so forth. In summary, the accreditation pathway is most applicable to people who are interested in actually applying the recruitment products to the work you do with your clients. In contrast to the non-accreditation pathway, which is mostly for knowledge building, for those of you who desire the knowledge but don't necessarily plan to use the products in the near future. So you'll certainly have access to the lecture and the various other materials that are available, but there are no specific requirements. And of course, if you have any questions about which pathway is most suited to your needs, a member of the Lectica team is available for a discussion. That brings us to the end of our webinar. If you have any questions that come up about the LAP2 program in terms of the learning outcomes, the content, the structure, or the products, feel free to reach out to any member of the Lectica team. I also want to briefly mention that there are some very useful resources available on Lectica's website and also Lectica's YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, you'll find an overview of LecticaFirst. In addition to that, Lectica's website has an entire page dedicated to the recruitment products as well. But if there are any further questions that arise for you, please reach out to any member of the Lectica team and we'd be more than happy to address them. Thank you so much for your attention and participation in this webinar, and we hope to see you in the LAP2 program very soon. Thank you again, and bye for now.